Hello, it's Crazy Frank here. I've got a small gunsmithing business in Fresno, California. And one of the gentlemen that I work with, I also drive truck, gave me his pistol, and he just told me, I don't know much about it, he said, but it's got a ton of trigger pull, and see what you can do to make it less. So I picked the gun up, and I didn't even take a good look at it till I got it back here to my shop. This is a very rare gun. It's a Colt. It's called a Pocket 9. They only made it 1 year, 1999. It's a 9mm, and because of this lug design on the barrel, Carr, I guess, patented this, and then Colt copied it, and they threatened with a lawsuit from Carr, so they discontinued manufacture. I've heard two numbers. The lady at Colt wouldn't tell me very much. I've heard 800 and I've heard 500 is all that they made. But because of that, nobody makes parts for it. You can call up Wolf Springs or somebody else and ask them if they have any springs or anything for this gun, and no, they don't. Why would you want to go to the trouble to manufacture parts for a gun that was very limited in the quantity that was made? So I bring it home, I take it apart, and it comes apart like a regular 1911 wood. It's got the takedown pin. And I pulled the grips off, and I discover my gauge, it's not a high dollar gauge, but my trigger pull gauge only goes up, well, it goes to 8, but I figure it probably goes to 9 pounds maximum. I check the trigger on it before I start. It's beyond 9 pounds. So it's a ton of trigger. So I find out this is the return spring, the return for the trigger right here. The hammer's out of it. Here's the hammer's here. This is the hammer spring, and this is the bar that actually, this goes down in here, and this is what pushes on the trigger. I'm sorry, on the hammer. It goes in this notch. I got to get this thing oriented correctly. This is the orientation. This goes in here, and when this is pushed in place with this pin through here, this is where most of your trigger pressure is coming from. It has just the return spring is 1.5 pounds, just to return the trigger. And there's no springs available, no parts available. This is after I actually did it. I took the trigger out and I polished underneath this bar to try and reduce friction. But we're still at 1.5 pounds just to return the trigger. I have no idea how heavy this spring is. I've got a jig in my shop. My bench is in my house. I have a shop out in back. And I've got a jig on my drill press where I can check this, but I didn't know that it was that important to know. And I called up 3 spring manufacturers to see if they had an aftermarket spring that was less than this one is pound-wise, and nobody can help me. So I have a stock spring ordered. Like I said, there's limited number of parts available for this gun. And when I get that spring in, this is going to be part 1. Part 2, I'm going to show you a method to take a spring and using the existing spring to reduce the poundage. Springs like this, you can bend them and you can reduce it some, and I may do that. I'm going to do this first. But I'll walk you through that procedure, and we'll check it before the poundage on a stock spring. I'll take the spring then and do the work on it, and then we'll check it again to see how much we've reduced it. If I get it down to a 5-pound spring, I think he'll be very happy. But if you damage a part in this thing, it can't be replaced. So you have to be very, very careful. These guns new sold for in the $600 range, but one of these in the box, never fired, is worth over $2 grand. That's how much they went up in value just because of the rarity of the gun. It's a nice little handgun, but again, maybe it's worth more on the shelf than it is in your pocket, but like I say, part 1, I'll get back to you on part 2, and I'll walk you through the spring and see if we can't get this thing down to, God, 4.5. I'd be tickled to death. Don't know if I can do it or not, but I'm going to try. So we'll see you next time. Crazy Frank signing out.